Welcome to Huddle Up. We are back with another episode. With me, as always, Rob Clock. And today, our guest is another quarterback. We've got two quarterbacks on the show, Ryan Zapoticky. And Ryan, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
You bet.
Welcome, Ryan. And Fran, just to clarify, Ryan was very athletic at the position. I was just a big kid that could throw the ball. I was not athletic.
I don't know. The reason I reached out to Ryan because we were doing that countdown to the first game, and I saw his picture was on there, and I was like, "Oh, who's this guy?" I was very interested. But then I went back to your picture, Rob, and you diving into the end zone with that one-hander. That was pretty impressive. That was a great look.
Pretty impressive, right?
It didn't happen very often.
So Ryan, we're really glad to have you, man. Great. I read just some bio stuff on you, man. What a career. Great career as a quarterback at Ship, all conference, academic All-American,
Outstanding.
just some great stuff. And I don't know if your record still holds. At that time, you were the leading passer, over 7,000 yards at Ship.
I think Zach Zulli was before me. He was the leading passer.
Zach Zulli beats everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, right?
But Ryan,
I think
correct
he
me if
has
I'm
every
wrong.
DP record.
But I think as a quarterback, you had the most rushing yards.
It might have been, yeah, maybe
I
something.
think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure that still stands, but I think at one point if you weren't first, you were in the top 2 or 3
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
rushing for a quarterback. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's great to have you, man. And you're one of the younger guys. We've had some older guys. It's great to have a younger guy in here. You just graduated in what, 2017?
2017, yep.
Yeah. So tell us about about those years you played at Ship. I know you were on some pretty good teams. You guys, I think what'd you go the one year? You were 10-2 in 2017.
Yeah, 10-2, I think it was 2017. I mean, they were the best years of my life. We had some good teams for sure. I remember being recruited. It was following the 2012 season, which was one of the best years in Shippensburg history as well. And I remember our class, we just came in with a lot of, hungry guys that we had a really good recruiting class following that year. I think that was Coach Yursich's last recruiting class. So, when he was around, a lot of the offensive guys, which I was close with, obviously, we came in and we all were hungry and wanted to do well. And so I think it just kind of sparked a good 4 or 5 years there.
Who were some of the guys on that team with you, Ryan? And maybe who were some of the coaches and maybe some of the influences on you from that team?
So coming in, that was a class of like Zach Zulli, Trevor Harmon, I think was a year younger than him, Jake Metz, all those guys. A lot of talent on that roster. And then I came in with Colin McDermott, Andrew Engelbert, Oscar Gasab, and we just had another great class as well. And so in between there, we played with a lot of talent also. But as far as coaching staff, one of the biggest credits I think for my success there was Coach Tomasetti. I remember coming in as a freshman. I didn't know anybody. I didn't have anybody that ever played a college sport, to talk to really. And he was one of the guys that took me under his wing. Just as a freshman from workouts and in the weight room, the classroom, everything. Just kind of learning the position, learning how to be a college athlete and everything. And a lot of credit to him. And he actually carried on from being an assistant or a graduate assistant into an actual coaching assistant at the time, which carried through as a quarterback coach through the 4 years.
Excellent. Specifically, that 10-2 team from 2017. Talk about the season, the highlights, but I'm curious about some of the big moments. Like, were there things that kind of stand out from that season? There had to be 10-2.
Yeah, that was a special year. We had a really good class, like I mentioned, a lot of talent kind of all the way around from offense to defense. Our offensive line was stout. We had 2 great tailbacks in Colin McDermott and Cole Chip. And I think we had a balanced offense, specifically, talking about our end. We were very balanced and, we were able to kind of, attack defenses in a couple different ways. But one of the biggest highlights, I think, was at Kutztown. 2 years prior, we had lost to them at Kutztown. It was a pretty ugly loss. And that game would have put us into the PSAC championship that year. And then my junior season, I didn't get a chance. I was injured. I didn't get a chance, for any redemption there. But going back at Kutztown, and lining up against them, I think it was a night game, and we just, from start to finish, we had them. We had their number, and that was probably the biggest highlight of the year for us. Obviously, a lot of great, victories.
Sure.
The one downside was Westchester that year, but we had a lot of success, a couple different ways there.
You were playing under Coach Mack, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I'm going to throw a little wild card question in here. What was it like playing for Mac, and and maybe seeing where the program it was at, and the success he's had.
Coach Mack's awesome. I have a lot of respect for him, not only as a coach but as a person. He was there start to finish. Recruited me, and then he's still there now. Obviously, he's done a great job. He's had a lot of good teams. A couple down years, but I think overall, he does a really good job of keeping everybody engaged, making sure that he doesn't produce great football but produces great people as well. And I think that's what sets him apart and sets Shippensburg apart in general. There's just a lot of good people around, his staff and everything.
Well, and I think Mac's happy right now because there is a familiar name on the roster. Your younger brother is now a member of the Red Raiders, and that's pretty cool. I got to admit, like when I saw the name that he signed, I'm like, wait a minute, is this the younger brother of our former quarterback? This is outstanding. Tell us a little bit about that. What's that like to have your younger brother play there?
It's cool. It's funny. You get those pop-ups on Facebook and you see the old memories. And a couple, just back in August or September, I think it was early September, a picture popped up, and it was after a post game of one of my sophomore year, freshman year games, and Brady was just 8 or 9 years old at the time, and then to see it 10 years later, it's pretty cool that now he's in those shoes. It's obviously a whirlwind. You're going through the whole recruiting process, and you got a lot of action, and you don't know what to choose. And I think the familiarity is nice in his case, but obviously, going to be a great challenge for him too, and to try to be successful there.
Yeah.
If I can throw one at you here, what's like compare yourself to your brother? Like, how do you guys compare? Because you're both quarterbacks, right?
Yeah, both quarterbacks. I think there's stuff that he has that I didn't have. But then I think for me, I was more of a killer instinct kind of guy. If I wanted something, I was going to go get it. But he's got that natural size, that I didn't have. So it's hard to compare two different types of quarterbacks, I think. But again, I hope he's successful there.
You obviously worked hard in the classroom as well as on the field. What drove you to succeed in both areas?
I think just the people around us. Again, going back to the people at Shippensburg, it's just everybody's there to help you and support you. We had study hall and everything, in the early years, which again, I didn't know anything about college going into it. I was away from home. I didn't know anybody. And so it was just one of those things you had to lean on each other, and everybody kind of helped me out. And after that first semester or two, then you kind of get in a routine, and you're able to take it from there. But I would credit again, Coach Tomasetti, some of the other staff as well. But they all kind of were looking out for me early.
Yeah, I think one thing Ship did really well was my experience too was with the study hall. And I remember the thing they hooked us up with that really helped me was the writing center. They would bring some people from the writing center, and they would basically grade your paper before you handed your paper in, and they'd show you how to fix stuff. I learned so much from those people that came over and helped us. I think I probably learned more from them than I did from my teachers and my professors, just because, it was one-on-one. I really appreciated it. Actually, I ended up like testing out of a literature class one time. It was because they helped me so much with my papers. But
Right.
I agree with you 100%. I think that was really helpful. And I think it taught a lot of us how to study, because a lot of us, I think, when we got to college, we didn't really know how to study. We just relied on our intelligence. We just paid attention in high school, and we did fine. College is different. Right.
Totally different animal. Yeah, but no, I totally agree.
Yeah. Ryan, how did football play a role in maybe shaping you over your years? Did you play when you were young and all the way through like a lot of kids did? And
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
does it
So I
really
grew up,
form who
I
you
was a soccer player initially, but probably around 8 or 9 years old, I made the switch over to football, and fell in love with it right from the first snap. But I think, in many ways, as all of us, it kind of didn't necessarily define me, but it shaped me into who I was, and who I am today. There's so many life lessons that you gather, so many lifelong friends that you gain. So just kind of every day it built on something, and there was so much adversity that you faced that you're able to get through, and it just teaches you about life, I think. So I credit a lot of who I am today because of that sport, for sure.
Well, growing up in Dallas, PA, up in the coal region, um, I grew up in the coal region too, so I know there were high expectations for football, and it was great. But you also knew you had to perform, or you were letting
Right.
the whole community down. And going and watching some
Absolutely.
games as a kid in Dallas, I know it was pretty important.
Yeah,
Football was king. So
it is. Yeah, no, and it still is, which is pretty cool.
yeah, absolutely.
It's cool to see the younger generations come up, and it's been great. So.
Did you
Nice.
how did you get to ship? Maybe the recruiting process, how'd that all occur?
Yeah, so in high school, like I said, I didn't have anybody in my family that ever played college sports or anything, so it was a first generation deal. But going through the whole recruiting process, you get all these letters in the mail, and that, for me, I didn't know what to sort through, which was legit and which was just kind of fluff. But after the season, my senior season ended, and meeting with coaches throughout the off season, ship really wasn't on my radar at all. Coach John Saba, who was my high school coach at the time, he played at Shippensburg. I think he was 99 or 2000 grad. But he played defensive end there, and he was close with Coach Lee. And so he kind of connected us, a little bit after my senior season, and met with Coach Lee, and he was trying to get me on campus. And I was still kind of, I don't know if I really want to go away or go to Shippensburg. But then after, I took a visit, I think, to East Stroudsburg, and then took a visit to Shippensburg, and from there it was kind of over. Once I set foot on campus, everything kind of fell into place. But it was funny. I mean, Coach Yursich was the quarterback coach at the time and the offensive coordinator. And sitting into the meeting with him, and my dad was there, and we were just talking to him, and his energy was off the charts. And I remember thinking, like, this is a place, and I committed. And then I got a call on the way home that he took a job at Oklahoma State. I'm thinking, what's going on here? I was like, is this normal? But I ended up sticking with it. I'm really happy I did, obviously. But yeah, it was just the whole recruiting process was a whirlwind, for sure.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I think it opens a lot of young people's eyes to the real world and how it all really works. But I do think Ship has that advantage. They got you on campus. And I think for a lot of us, when we got there, like, oh yeah, this is a place I
Yeah,
want to be.
absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
nice. Well, tell us, what are you doing today, career-wise, family-wise? Where are you located? What's going on in your life?
So I'm living in Dallas, Pennsylvania. I'm a dentist. So after Shippensburg, I went to University of Pittsburgh for 4 years for dental school.
Nice.
And then I currently practice. I'm 3 years into practice at Century Dental Associates, and mainly in the Scranton region. And we just got our first office in Luzerne County in Dallas. So looking to build on that and just kind of grow. I married a basketball player from Shippensburg, Colleen, Young at the time is her maiden name. And we have two children. So we have a 16-month-old Peyton and almost an 8-week-old Riley. And so we're living the dream and just growing our family, and excited to see how everything shapes out.
Oh, that's outstanding.
Yeah, so you guys are very busy.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we are. It's
any
been
sleep?
good. What's that?
You getting any sleep?
Yeah, they're actually both really good sleepers. We're still waking Riley up a little bit to get her some feedings in the middle of the night, but overall, they both sleep well. They're a lot of fun to be around. It's one of the coolest things of being a dad, for sure.
Absolutely.
Rob just became a grandparent not that long ago, and I've got
Congratulations.
grandkids, and you do it all over again. It's just as much the second time.
Yeah.
Except we can give them back.
Yeah,
That's
right.
right.
We can give them back. It might be a weekend, but we can give them back.
It's the best of both worlds.
Yeah. Hey, Ryan. So, we always talk about great memories and things like that from the season. When you look back over your career, one of the things we talked to Ken Pickett not that long ago, and he talked about, boom, football was over at the end, and it was kind of like, wow, that was kind of a shocker. What was it like at the end? When you played your last game and you knew football was done. What was your kind of emotions going through in there?
That was a tough day. I remember it pretty clearly, actually. Yeah, it was Westchester. It was the rainiest game I've probably ever played in. It was cold, rainy. And obviously it didn't go out the way we wanted to. But that was after the 10-2 year. We had a really successful season. And I just remember, after that, it was myself, Oscar Gasab, Andrew Engelbert, Austin Rosenberry, Colin McDermott, and a couple other younger classmen that we were really close with, and we all huddled up with Coach Mack at the time. And to us, that was a really special season. I remember after our junior year, the ship was kind of sailing in the wrong direction a little bit. And as a captain, we met with Coach Mack, a couple times, and we just said, what do we need to do to get this back on the right track? And he kept his word, we kept our word, and we all meshed. And so that was a really special year. And I remember after, we were happy that we did well that year. We were, sad that we lost. But it was just kind of a whirlwind of emotion. I remember hugging my dad coming off the sideline, and that was emotional for sure. But it was a great experience, great 4 years. And then it was bittersweet. And for me, I knew I wanted to try to pursue playing the next level as well. So I tried to elongate that dream a little bit. But after the last game at Shippensburg, it was tough to swallow for sure.
Yeah. Well, we all wanted to keep it going.
Yeah. No,
I don't think I've talked to anybody who didn't want to keep it going.
Right.
Right. And I think we talked about this with a lot of people, like where you're at stage wise in your life. You're third year of your profession, you have 2 children now, like the likelihood of you getting back and, getting to see games a little less likely. But now that your brother's there, maybe we got the hook. Maybe we can get you there.
There's a reason. Yeah, that's right.
Because in all honesty, a lot of us missed out on a couple of years there because, again, we had our own families, we had our own careers, all that kind of stuff. But hopefully we can get you down there for some games and get to see your brother, and he'll be slinging it around, and, we'll see. So
yeah, we're going down this Saturday actually for the first game this year for us. But I plan on visiting a couple times a year, and nice. Being around the game again will be cool.
Good. Now, you put something in my head when you mentioned it. You said after your junior year, you guys got together with Mac, had a meeting, and that whole leadership thing. I know you were captain, right? Your senior year,
yes.
That
junior
whole
and senior
thing.
year.
Yeah, and so right now the team is going through some struggles. What was this? What was the secret? What did you guys like? What was the talk about?
I think we all just came together as a class. Again, we started off with a ton in our class. I think maybe 45 kids, and maybe it graduated with 10 or 11 of the same kids in that class. But those 10 or 11 guys, I think we all had everything. All of our goals aligned, and we wanted to make sure that we didn't go out the way our junior season ended. We just kind of had some turmoil, and as a group, we met with Coach Mack, and individually, I remember meeting with Coach Mack, sat with him for about an hour, and just kind of, we had an adult conversation. And I remember everything that he said that would happen. He kept his word, and same with our end. And that's where I think, for me personally, I think that's where I respected Coach Mack the most, is he was a man of his word, and he was just a leader of humans. And I think that's ultimately what turned the tide, was just our senior class kind of coming together and saying we don't want to end this way, and then we had a good year. So I think for the young guys on the team now, or anybody, seniors, juniors, whoever, just kind of coming together and changing it. They can control their own destiny, and instead of just being status quo, go out and do something about it and change it.
Great.
I think that's part of the buy-in. I know from the coach's side of the equation, when the kids are truly in and they bought in. And I think our kids are going through some transition right now, just like the coaching staff is. And maybe we don't quite have that buy-in yet, but I think we have to reestablish that. And I know Mac will get them there, and he'll know when they're there. Again, it might take a little bit because we are very young, but I do think it's there. You can see it there. It's just the game has changed so much with the transfers and all that kind of stuff. So it is more of a challenge today than maybe it has ever been. So we need that. We need that buy-in. We need these kids to stick around, and we'll get it rolling again.
Yeah. No, I've got 100% faith in him, and I think you got some young energy on the staff on offense. Coach Goulardi and Coach Long. So I'm excited. Hopefully they stick around a little bit. The challenge on offense has been a revolving door. So much success that coaches are in and out, and no fault to them. I mean, they're doing what's best for them. But I think hopefully a little consistency will help.
Yeah, Mac is such a great character guy. I mean, I've played for a lot of coaches, known a lot of coaches. I don't know that I've ever met anyone with the character like Mac has, who's committed to good, leadership, character, all those things that are so important that leads to winners. And we know
Yeah,
them.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
Anything else you want to talk about, Ryan?
No, that's pretty much it. I
Are
appreciate you
you
guys
are,
having me.
are you very involved in RR4L? Do you follow what we're doing? And just out of curiosity.
Yeah, so I've been following along. I guess I could be involved a little bit more. Like you guys said, it's tough with time, but
You're a little busy.
Yeah, you
yeah,
got your
it's busy.
commitments.
But no, I think it's a great thing what you guys have going. Like I said, that the networking and hearing everybody's stories, I think is really interesting. And it's crazy. It's a small world, but how much you run into and the connection that SHIP has, across the state, across the country. It's pretty cool to see.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you know at the Bloomsburg game this weekend. I just talked to Zach Zulli today. He's going. He's got a
Oh,
baby.
cool.
Yeah, so you guys have a lot in common.
Yeah, I haven't seen Zach, to be honest. I haven't seen him in a while. But yeah, that'd be cool. We'll hopefully connect down there, and it'll be cool.
You
It'll
can
be cool
share
to catch up.
stories.
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Well, thanks a lot, Ryan.
Maybe a throw off a little bit at halftime.
There we go.
There we go. It's still in there. You know it.
There you go. Right.
Hey, thanks a lot, Ryan. Really appreciate you taking the time and joining us tonight. And good luck with the
Appreciate you having me on. Thank you. I appreciate you guys
Catching up
having
with
me
you.
on. Great catching up. Thank you.
Take care, man.